This is Vickie from Green Sewing and Vacuum, and today I'm going to show you how to make this little wall hanging for the 4th of July entirely in the hoop of the Solaris, Baby Lock Solaris embroidery machine. So it's just a real fun little quick project. What I have done is I've made each section of the little wall hanging separately and put it in the memory of the machine so that then at the end we can compile all those units into the one wall hanging. The reason I did that is I thought it would make it a lot easier for people brand new to the Solaris. Sometimes the IQ designer can be a little intimidating. So I thought it would be better if I took each individual section, each square, each line, each design, and put it into the memory so that then you could refer back to that if there was something that you wanted to do in the future. And you could say, oh, wait a minute, I brought in the 4th, but now I want to bring in the new baby's date of birth. How can I do that? This will at least get you started in that direction so you could do something like that. So just a real quick little project for the 4th. And I did also, one of the things that I had done in it is I went online and brought in a coloring book page that has fireworks and rockets and stars in it. I wanted to use this as the quilting background of the design. And so I brought that in, I saved it as a JPEG to a memory stick so that I could then bring it into the machine. I know that you can also scan these, but I wanted to do it as a JPEG to show people how to do that because it's real simple to do. So I brought it in, I sized it, I'll show you what I did with it. So, and then I do have my instructions written out here. I'm going to be following those as we go along, as I do the designing, so that I can catch any errors perhaps that I had made, because I want you guys to be able to, once you download this, to have those sections ready for you. And so you could even just go to that one section. If you said, okay, I want to make a square. Oh, I want to bring in a JPEG. Oh, I want to try and do the borders. This is going to help you with that because I have set it up as each section of it is individually designed so that you can refer to it in the future if you'd like. So what I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And what we're going to do is I am using a mouse so that my hand won't be in front of the screen for you so that you can see it. The very first thing that we're going to be doing with the design is preparing a square for tacking down the batting. And so that we'll have kind of an area set for what we're looking for. So you're going to go into IQ Designer. And then you're going to go to the shapes. That's the little icon down here in the corner that has the circle with the square. So you can tap that right up here. This is the square shape. We're just going to use a basic square. So we're going to tap that and say, okay. So then what we want to do is we need to size it to the size that we're wanting. Now I did bring in from the settings page, I brought in the hoop size that I wanted. I'm using the square 12 5/8 by 12 5/8 inch hoop size. So what I need to do is I need to take this square and size it. So I'll hit the size button and I need to take it up to about 10 inches. So I'm just going to use the box up here in the upper right hand corner that has the 4 arrows going out. And I'm just going to hold that down until I get to 10. And then as I get a little closer to the 10, I'll just tap it until it reads 10 by 10. Okay, so there it is. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, right now, up here, this is the line properties box up in the right side. And this is telling us what kind of stitching we're going to be doing with this box. Right now, it's set for a zigzag, which obviously I don't want. So I'm going to tap on that zigzag, come up here to where you see the 2 rows of stitching, and this is a double run. So you're going to highlight that box. And then we want to change the color So I'm going to tap on a color that will be visual for you and say, okay. Then up here below, now you can see where it has the double run in. We're going to tap the bucket. That's going to implement this change. So I then take the mouse once the bucket is highlighted and I tap on my square. It has now changed the color of the square. So I know it's going to be a double run, that it's changed from the zigzag to that double run. So I go down to the bottom and I hit next. And on this page right here, this is where I can tell what size or length of stitch that I want for this box. Right now, the box is at 0.080. I wanted this stitch length to be a little bit longer because of what I was doing with it. And I find that 0.080 is really, really tight. So I'm going to tap that and hit the plus sign. I found that 0.124 worked for me how I wanted to use this box. So I get the run pitch to 0.124 and I say, okay, the machine is thinking. So once that blue circle disappears, it's ready. So you're going to hit the set button. It's saying convert to the embroidery pattern and IQ Designer will be exited. Basically, is it okay? Do you want to do that? And you say, okay, and there it is. So at this point, I could add and go on to the next section of the design and just continue to stack and stack and stack the design until I got to the end. But as I said, I'm trying to set this for a beginner so that they can see each individual section and how it's prepared. So I'm going to, at this point, go to the memory button, which is right next to embroidery at the bottom. I'm going to tap that. And here I have the option of either putting it in the machine, putting it on a USB stick, putting it on an SD card. I'm going to put it into the memory of the machine. So I'll hit the memory and now it's in there. So now I want to get out of this section because I've designed that box. That's that 10-inch square and we saved it. So you're going to go up here to the home button. Is it okay to delete that pattern? And yes, it's okay. So now the second section that I'm going to be doing is preparing the placement and the tack down for the center square of the fabric. So we're going to go back into IQ Designer. We'll go back into shapes. I want that same square that I used before and say, okay. This time I want to size it smaller because I'm just going to be outlining that center block. So right now it's at 6.19 by 6.19. I want to make it 6 inches. So I'm going to use the box with the arrows all pointing in until I get it down to 6 inches. And okay, it for some reason wants to go to 5.99 today or 6.01. It doesn't matter which one. So I've got it at 6.01 and I'm going to say, okay. So again, if you look in the line properties box, it is set to do a zigzag. I want to change that again to a double run. So I'll just tap on that line, go back over to the double run, pick a fun, funky color. Red's my favorite. We say, okay, we're going to use the bucket right here. We need to highlight that bucket and then go over and tap that box so that it is now red. So then we can say next. And here again is the run pitch. It's still too tight for me. I don't like it this small. So we're going to tap on that button and we're going to increase it. And I like 0.104 seems to work really well for me on that. So we're going to say, okay, it's thinking, and then hit set. And okay, because we want to convert that. Now, before we put it into the memory, what we have done right here, this is the 6-inch square. This is going to be the placement line. What I want to do, because it's kind of an applique, is I want to now tell it this exact same size, but we want it to be a tack down. Easy way to do that, rather than putting this 6-inch block in and bringing it in, I'm going to show you something else. We go here to the edit button at the top. Third button down, you see a square with a dotted line square on top of it. That's going to duplicate this box, so, or this square. So I'm going to tap that, and you can see that I now have another square on top. Well, obviously we want to have these directly on top of one another. So what you want to do is you're going to hit go to your move button in the upper right hand corner, and you can actually see right here that it's not centered because it's 0.19, 0.19. Go down here, and if you hit this dot in the center, it's going to take that block and center it. But now what's interesting is I do have a block on top of a block, and you might think that they're both centered directly on top of one another. But if I come down here to the select keys, and it does not matter which one I push, but I'm going to tap select, that brings the other box that I had on the screen. It brings it now to the forefront. And if you look right here underneath the edit buttons, it now says 0.01 and minus 0.01. So it's not exactly centered. So I'm going to go back down to that button in the middle, hit that button, and it now has taken it, and they are exactly on top of one another. So you're going to say, okay, and then we're going to go ahead and put those in the memory. We don't want to go to the embroidery. We could if we were designing this thing all in one fell swoop, but I'm doing each section one at a time. So we'll hit memory, put it in the pocket of the machine, and then we're going to go ahead and delete out of this area. And so we go to home and we say yes. Okay, so now I'm going to be bringing in that JPEG or the background of the machine. And I do have that saved to the memory stick that I have in the machine. So we're going to go to the IQ Designer. We're going to come up here to this leaf up here on the top row. So we tap that leaf. Then we have options down here of an image scan, a line design, or an illustration design. Well, I'm not going to be scanning it, and I do want to make it a line design because I want this as an outline for quilting. So I'm going to tap line design, and then obviously I'm not scanning because I didn't put on the scanning bed. I'm bringing it in from my USB stick. So I'm going to tap that, and then right here is the option. I saved it under Firework JPEG. So I will tap that, and there's the design that I brought in. So I'm then going to say set. And right here, if you look at this, it's in a zigzag. I don't want it a zigzag. I want to change that to a regular straight stitch. So I tap on that. Again, I go to that double run, bring in a color, and I say, okay. And you can see right here that it took it out of the zigzag and it made it a double run. So we're going to say, okay. And then set. And now, if you look at this screen, here's your design. It's telling you that it is a double run. So that's what I want. So I'm going to hit next. Now, what's kind of fun here, because I want to change the stitch length because we're back on that run pitch page. And I want to change the pitch on this to 0.100. But if, I don't know if you can see it or not, but right here in this design, one lone little star has a box around it. So if I change the run pitch, it's only going to change the run pitch on that one lone little star. So if we come up here to this link and we tap this, there's red boxes all over. Each element of this now has a red box around it because it has linked that whole design together. So anything I tell it right here, it's going to change the whole design. So I'm now going to take that run pitch and I want to make it 0.100. And I say, okay. And it's thinking about it. It did it. So now I'm going to say set. And yes, I want to convert it. And but I do know that it's too big. So I'm going to go to edit and go into size. Now at this point, right now it's saying it's 7.82 by 8.31. I want to make it smaller to fit in my center square. So I found that 5.48 by 5.82. So I'm just using that same box, but look, it only goes down a certain amount. So if you push this button right here that has the zigzag with a vertical arrow and a horizontal arrow, if you tap that, it says, okay, I want to go back to my original size, angle, and position. I say yes, because I need to make it much smaller. By doing that, I can bring it down to a much smaller size than what it let me do. Right here, I can only bring it down. It's like 20%, but now I can bring it way, way down. So I'm going to take that size and I'm going to bring it down to that 5.48. Kind of keep adjusting until I get it where I want it. Okay, so I'm at 5.48 by 5.82. Got it to that size. So I say, okay. And then, as I said, we're putting each bit of this into the memory. So we just hit the memory, tap the machine, and there it is. So again, now we're going to go home and say, okay, because it's in the memory, we've saved it there. So now I'm going to prepare the number 4 for the 4th. So that I used a font that's in the machine. So right now I'm going to go to Embroidery. I'm going to go to section number 4 because those are the large fonts. So I take 4 and I want to use section number 3. This is a kind of a collegiate design and they're really cool. I like this one. So I'm going to push the number 3. So now I can either scroll down until I get to the number 4, but also this arrow right here. If I push this, I get more on the screen. So I don't have to scroll quite so much. So just take this up, bring it up to the number 4, which is number 057. I bring that in. I'm going to go ahead and take that arrow now and drop it down because now I can see it. I'm going to hit set. And I'm going to come up here to the edit because what I want to do is I'm going to save this 4 as a shape to the machine so I can actually make it an applique design how I want to use it. So I take edit. I come down here to this little flower in the lower right-hand side. I tap that flower. Now, if you look at this, right now, it's ready to go ahead and just do an outline of this. But the problem is is that if I tell it now, all it's going to do is do an outside design. It's not going to get this bit on the inside because it doesn't know I want that. So right here where it says inside, I'm going to highlight on so that it's also going to outline that interior part of the 4. So I'll set this into memory. I don't want to change the distance. I really don't want to change the size at this point. So I go to memory and I say, it's going to take it from IQ. It's going to go to IQ into the shapes area, recall from IQ stamp pattern list. And I say, okay. So then I'm going to go, oh my goodness, where am I? Okay. I'm going to go home. Okay to delete that. And I say yes. So now I'm going to go into IQ Designer. I'm going to go to that shapes key where the circle and the square is. Take the shapes. Now it saved it. Remember the flower bump from before. So we're going to use that, go to that flower. And there's my 4. So I'm going to bring in that, tap on the 4 and say, okay. I'm going to size this because I need to bring it down. So I'll take size. And right now it's at about 6 by 4 inches. I want to bring it down to about 3.5 by 2.5. So just hold that down. And get it to the size that you want. So I went too big. Okay, I want 3.49. Okay. Okay, so now it's at 3.49 by 2.42. And I say, okay. So I want to, if you look up here, up in the line properties box right now, it's telling you that that's a zigzag. I want to change that to a double run. So I will tap on that, go over here to the double run, give it a color, say, okay, take that bucket, highlight the bucket. Now you want to bear in mind that when I tap this out here, it's only changed what I have on the outside. I also need to tap that little triangle in the center and change the color of it too. So then you hit next. And then you see a red box around that 4. But if you look up here, if I hit this arrow, that red box has just gone around the center. Well, I want to have the whole thing changed, my run pitch at one time. So I'm going to hit those links again. Now you see the red box around the whole number 4 and around the triangle. So whatever the run pitch I change it to, it's going to change both of them. So I'm going to tap the run pitch and I'm going to make it 0.104 and say, okay. It's thinking, hit set, say, okay, because we want to convert it. So now this is, because I'm going to be doing the 4 is an applique with glitter. So right now, here again, this is just our placement line. So we want to duplicate it. So we're going to go to edit, duplicate. It's the key with the two boxes. One is a dotted line, one is solid. And we're going to hit the duplicate and then go to move, because remember, we have to put them both one on top of each other. So we hit move. You can see it's not centered by looking at these numbers. Tap that center button. Go over here to select, because remember, we've got 2 layers and we want them both to be the same. So we're going to hit select and it brings the other one now to the forefront, and you can see that it's not centered. because there's numbers up here. If it's centered, it's going to be 0.00. So we're going to take that, tap that center button, and now they are both at 0.00. And we say, okay, but now we want to add, because we need to add the zigzag on top of it. So there are a few ways of doing this. I'm doing this to get it into your head how to maneuver the screen. I know there's other ways to do it. For those of you that say, no, there's another way. Yeah, I know there's another way. This is how I'm doing it today. So we're going to hit add. We're going to go up, or excuse me, over here in the bottom where it says IQ Designer. We're going to hit the IQ Designer. We're going to go into that shapes key. Going to go back to our flower, bring that 4 back in again, and say, okay. We want to size it again down to that 3.49, the same size that we had before. Okay, so once you get that, you say, okay. And okay, and it's already, okay, it's already at a zigzag, which is where we want it. But what I'd like to do, because right now it's in black, I want to change the color so that I know it's making a difference in there. So you bring in a color, you say, okay. You take your bucket and you tap it and the inner so that we know it's going to do that zigzag in both areas. So we're going to then hit next. And again, at this point, I do want to change the zigzag, but remember, if we don't link it, it's only going to make the change to the outside. It won't make the change to the inside. So we want to remember to link it. And so now there's a box around both sections, the triangle and the hole number 4. So I want to change the width of my zigzag. Right now it's at 0.080, and I want to increase it to 0.160. I found out this really works for me. It's a nice medium-sized width, and it worked well with the glitter. So we say, okay, it's thinking. We say set, okay. We go to edit. We want to move it, because look, it's not totally centered. So it would be slightly off from our tack down and our placement. So or our placement and tack down. So we hit the center button so that it goes to 0.00 in both directions. You say, okay. Then what we want to do is we're going to take this, because we want this for, we have a placement, a tack down, and the zigzag. If we were to move this, it would move only the zigzag section. So I want to group this so all 3 of those behave as one. I can do with them, I can move it all at one point then. So you come down here to these little group keys, tap on the group key, and right here, if you take where all the pink is, you tap that, now you've got a pink square around all of them. It's going to take every single one of them and keep them together. So we say, okay, but one final thing that you have to do is right up here, you want to take, there's a circle and a square within a square, tap that, and now it's telling you, okay, I am totally grouped. I can move this wherever I want to move it. So I'm going to say at this point, I'm going to say, okay, I put it in the memory because I want it in the memory of the machine just for safety. So now I need to put the TH on there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the TH because I want to be able to space it next to the number 4 wherever I want it. So I'm going to go to add. I'm going to go to the font number 3 section. I liked number 11, which is right here. I'm going to take that and I want to go to the lowercase. And I'm going to bring in the T and the H. Okay, so I've got those in, and I'm going to say set. I'm going to edit because I want to be able to move them. So edit and then move, and then I can move them where I want them. And at this point, you just kind of move them wherever you want them to be. So wherever I get them, I kind of like it right about in there. I say, okay. Now we're going to go back to those group keys because I want to make this now all one unit. So go to those group keys, do all of them because you want the whole set. You want those 2 to act as one. Hit your group keys, say, okay, then you have to come up here because right now they're still kind of individual. Tap this. Now you've got one box around the whole thing. Go to move and tap that center button because I wanted that in the center of my block. Tap center and then okay. And then go ahead and put it in the memory. Right to the machine. So now that section, the 4th, is done. So we're going to go home and say, okay. So now we're going to make the lines that we're going to use for the borders because I'm going to need a placement line and a tack down line for my vertical and my horizontal borders that I've got on there. So I'm going to go to IQ, shapes. I know that in some instances, people are more comfortable with using the tools for drawing straight lines like that. This was a little trick I learned a long time ago, and it really does make it easier for me. If you want to use the tools to do a pencil line drawing yourself, go right ahead. But this was just, I felt for a beginner, this is the way to do this. I'm going to take the square again and say, okay, I want to size it. I'm going to lengthen it to 6.5 inches. So I'll use just the one direction for the length and take it to 6.5. Okay, so I've got that at 6.5. Then I'm going to say, okay, I want to make it a double run because right now it's a zigzag. So I'm going to tap on that zigzag, go over here to double run, change my color, say okay, go to the bucket, tap the square. So it changed colors. So now, yeah, that's a square. We want that to be a straight line. So that I like to do, I take the eraser, change it to a square, because for this instance, for me, I found a square was easier, make it bigger. And I'm just kind of pushing on it until I get a little bigger square. And I say, okay. So I could go ahead and just start erasing this, but I want to show you the increase that we can do. Let's go to 200%. We're going to take the hand. So that means that we can now move this. So now you can see there's the two corners of the square. I want a horizontal line. So I'm going to take that eraser and I'm just going to come up here and I'm just going to start erasing. Okay, I need to get the rest of the box. So I'm going to take the hand, bring it over, tap that eraser again, and just erase the rest of my box. Okay, I'm going to go back to 100%. So now I've got a straight line right there. That's the double run. So I'm going to say next. This is where it wants to change the run pitch or the length of it. So I'm going to tap that. I'm going to change it to 0.104 and say, okay. And set, say, okay. Memory, put it in the machine. We're going to go home and say, okay. So I've done my vertical line. Now I'm going to go back into IQ Designer, go back into shapes, bring up a square, say, okay. I'm going to size it, and this time I want it to be 10 inches in width. So I'm just going to change the width of the box to 10. And say, okay. I want to change it to a double run. So go to the zigzag, double run, give it a color, say, okay, bucket, tap your square. You're going to go back to that eraser, go back to the square, make it big, say, okay. And then you can either pan in if you want to, or if you feel comfortable enough, just bring it up and erase your line. Now, I am going to do something intentionally on here. So we're going to erase, but I'm going to leave a little section there just so I can show you in case this happens to you. So I'm thinking, I go along and I go, okay, I got my box. I didn't see this, or maybe there's a little teeny tiny piece that I didn't get erased, but I didn't see it. But when I go to the next button, where we're going to be changing the run pitch, if you look up here, if these were grayed out, that would mean I only had one section right here. But they're not grayed out. So that's telling me that there's something wrong. If I hit this link button, it's now not only has the red box around my long horizontal line, but look, there's a piece there that's left. Well, you're saying, I don't want that there. I just want that horizontal line. So you're going to hit your return, highlight the eraser, get that, and then go in and find what you had left. In some instances, it may be so small that you will have to magnify your screen to find what you're looking for, but that's how you would do it. So you're going to go back into your next. Now see, these are grayed out. I can't move around. It is one unit. So I'm going to change that run pitch to the 1.04. Say, okay. And set and okay, and put it in the memory of the machine. So then we're going home and okay. So now I wanted to make little tab holders for the little ribbon bits for the hanger at the top. If you're not planning on using it as a little hanger, don't need to do this part, but I wanted to show you how to do it. So you're going to go back into IQ Designer, bring up your shapes again, bring up that trusty square that we use so much, say, okay. You're going to size it. I sized it to 8. It's at 6.19. I'm sizing it to 8. because I want it to come inside. I don't want it on the exact corners, on the outside corners. So I'm making it 8. Okay. Say okay. And then one of the things that I did, I thought this might be, well, first off, let's, I forgot we need to change the zigzag from a zigzag to the straight stitch. So we're going to go from here to the double run, give it a color, say okay, bucket, tap. Okay, so I wanted to have an equal distance in there. So I could guess, but what I decided, because I wanted to show you again too, if you come up here to your settings page and where it says grid for the next to the embroidery hoop, let's go ahead and bring in that 1-inch grid and say okay. So now I'm going to take that eraser again, make it a square, size it up, and say okay. What I want to do is I want to have just a little bit like a 1-inch piece right here and a 1-inch piece right here. So by having the grid on there, I can see that. So the first thing I'm going to do is erase up to it. And just bring your eraser on around and erase everything. And say you didn't want to erase some section. If I got up here and I got a little carried away and I went, oh no, my mouse, there we go. Come on, mouse, move. Okay, I got up here and I went, oh, I didn't want to go that far. All you have to do is go back down here to this reverse arrow and it brings back that bit that I knocked off. So I can just go up here and sneak up on it and just change it. So now I want to have this area and this area left. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to get close to that. And because, like I said, I'm kind of nitpicky and I wanted them to be the same size, that's why I put the grid in. So now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the grid so I can see. And okay, so now I can see my 2 red lines there. So I'm going to go over here to next. And I'm going to, so if you look at this, if you look at it again here, remember, if we don't link it, it's only going to change the one that has the red box around it. So we're going to link, and we've got 2 boxes. So that means I didn't leave anything out here floating around. If there had been another little red box, that would have meant that I'd left part of that other square. So we're going to change that run pitch to a 0.104 and say okay. So set and okay. Now that is going to be my placement line for my ribbon tabs. So I'm going to go to edit, hit that duplicate key, hit the move, and hit center, select, and center, and say okay. Then we're going to go ahead and we can group this and say okay, and group and move. And I just want to move it up somewhat. I will be moving it again, but I just wanted to move it there. Say okay, and we're going to put it in the memory of the machine. Go home and okay. Now we have every single piece of this little wall hanging is now designed and set in the memory of the machine. As I said, I wanted to have each section individual so that you could refer to it at some point in time if you wanted to do just an individual part of something. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the embroidery of the machine. Go into the pocket. It's where the memory is. Go to the pocket. And we're going to bring up right here. This was the very first thing that we put in. That's that 10-inch square. Bring in the 10-inch square and say set. Then we're going to add. Go to the pocket. Bring up the 6-inch square. It was the second one that we did, so it's right here. And say set. And so you'll see right here, there's our 10-inch square, and then we have the two 6-inchers. This is our placement. This is our tack down. You're going to go to add the pocket. We're going to bring up that background of fireworks and say set. Go back to add. Go to the pocket. We want the fourth with the TH. So we bring that in and set and add. Go to the pocket. We're going to bring in a vertical line because this is going to be attaching the side borders. So we're going to bring in that. And what you're going to do is you want to go to edit, and you can just kind of barely see it here on the side. I want to move it so that it's basically right on top that 6-inch square right there. So we're going to move it and just tap it over. And it's right on top. What you also want to look at is right here where it says 0.03 and then minus 2.99. Just kind of remember that number. It's not a biggie if you don't, but it's okay. So hit OK. We then want to duplicate that line. So it's right here. You can kind of see it. It moved over to the right of the one that you put in before. You're going to hit move. First thing that I want to do is move it up so it's at that 0.3 or, see, I've already forgotten. There we go. 0.1, 0. Whatever. There it is.
3 and then 2.
Yeah, okay. So basically to kind of get it somewhat in line with the other one. So, and then we're going to move it to the left a little bit. And I'm just eyeballing this. There's no specific measurement. I just want it to the right of the line that I had put in before, because that's going to be my stitching line. The first one is a placement line, and now this will be a tack down, acting as like a seam allowance. So we say, okay, I'm going to duplicate it again, move. Now I'm going to move it all the way over to the right-hand side until it's right on top of that line. It just kind of blends in, and then I want to move it up because you'll see when it duplicates it, it makes it lower. So I want to bring it up again so that I've got a little bit sewing beyond that center square. So I say, okay, duplicate it again. It moved it to the right. Well, I want to bring it now to the left because the first one I put in is the placement line. Now I'm going to be doing the tack down. So I go to the move it up a little bit so it's kind of in line with the one that you put in before, and then move it to the left until it's just over from it. If you're going a little bit over that background design, it doesn't matter. It's not a biggie on this. So then you say, okay, so I've got my vertical borders in. Now I need to put my horizontal borders in. So I'm going to go to add, go back to the pocket, bring in that horizontal border and say set. You can just kind of see it up here at the top. I want to bring it down so it's in alignment with the top of that square. So we're going to go to edit, move, bring it down, line it right up on that line or as close as you can get to it. and then say, okay, duplicate it. It did go below, but I do want to move it because I need to get it basically centered with the other line. And I want to move it up just a little bit. That's a little deeper seam allowance than what I want. So then I say, okay, duplicate it, move, bring it all the way down to the bottom of that square. You want it as close to being on that line as possible. Center it and say, okay, duplicate it, move it. You want it to go to the inside of your block. And center it. And bring it down just a little bit, kind of get it where you want it and say, okay, we're going to add, go into the pocket. We want to bring in the tab placements, set, edit. Now I've got a lot of lines going on in here, a little difficult for me to see them. So I'm going to move it drastically so I can see where, okay, so there it is. I want to bring it up to just about just a little bit below that 10-inch top across there. So we say, okay. And then we're going to go to add, go back to the pocket. We're going to go back to that 10-inch square because this is going to stitch the backing on. So we pop that 10-inch square in again, say set. So everything is in there now. So now, because I am who I am, I put it in the memory. So the whole thing has now been saved and we can start stitching out. So you hit the embroidery key and we just get busy. So I do want to, I guess we can go here, T.
Okay.
For the first part of the stitch out and for the background stitching, I have really found that I like to use the Wonderfill Deco Bob for quilting. This is an 80 weight thread. It's really fine. And I've done it in quite a bit of quilting. Generally, I'll do it in something that where you don't even see it. It just kind of blends in. But in this instance, of course, I wanted some of my background to show because I have that great firework design that I wanted to do. So I just wanted you to know that this comes in yummy, yummy colors, and I'm going to be using the gold. So I have threaded the machine with that. I have a tearaway stabilizer in my hoop. I've already prepped all my pieces. I did that this morning. So the first thing I'll do is just put my batting in the hoop. So I've got tearaway stabilizer hooped, put my batting in. Okay, and so I've got my thread threaded and go. So it's going to tack down this batting. then it's going to stitch my placement line for my center square. And then my tack down for my center square. And then it's going to go ahead and stitch the background, and it's kind of fun to watch it. You don't know why it goes from here to there and here to that. It just goes all over the place. Not any rhyme or reason in my head, but you know, but it works. So this is going to be a few minutes. So I don't know. Do we have any questions, or is there anything? I guess we're okay. 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 I just think it's so cool how the machine can just take a line drawing and just make it sew it. It's like, how does it do that? How does it figure all that out? I really like it. It's like, ooh.
I know, right?
Coming together. But if you look at your computer, I mean, the number of things that you could pull in when you're looking at your free designs, because there's so much available on the computer that's free that you could just download as a JPEG and use it as a quilting design if you wanted. Or if you wanted to fill the rockets in, you could do it as an image and fill those in. So there's just a lot that could be done. Okay, so now I'm going to take the Deco Bob off and put the exquisite gold on. It's going to stitch the placement for the 4. And then don't forget when you're using the glitter that you want to make sure you peel that plastic covering off the top. I have stitched through it more than once. It will do it, but it's not very pretty. So then you're just going to cover that 4 with the glitter so it can do the tack down. Ew, gotta have sparkle on the 4th of July. Now at this point, if you were using regular fabric, you would go in and trim close to that before you went to the zigzag. But because this glitter is so fun and easy to work with when you're doing a zigzag, we're going to go right to the zigzag. And then it will just rip right off cleanly. I know. Then, like I said, it's just going to rip right off. Just like that. I'm leaving it in the center for just a few minutes. I'm going to stitch my TH. Okay, so it's going to stitch the placement for my first border. So I'm going to change my thread to my black. And put your border down, and I just kind of eyeball it, stitch it down. Stitch the placement on the right. Tack it down. A little bit over that stitching line. Kind of, it gives me a general idea of where to put that. Okay, so take it out of the machine and you're going to press. The first thing you want to do is you want to remember to get the center of that applique glitter out of the four. So I'm just taking a pair of tweezers, grabbing it, it comes right out. So you don't want to put your iron directly on the glitter, but you do want to press that glitter down so that it will stay permanent. So I just kind of finger press or hand press my borders over, put a pressing cloth down over the 4 and that, and then we're just going to press the 4 and my border over. Do the other side. Put it back in the machine, and we're going to do the top and bottom borders. So with that placement line, basically what I'm doing is there's the line there. And I like to just take this fabric, move it slightly over it, and then stitch the tack down. Placement for the bottom. Tack down. So take it out, press those. Remember, don't let the iron get directly on your glitter. Okay, at this point, you may want to change your thread out of the black so that you can see where the placement is for your ribbon. So I'm just going to go back to the gold real quick. we're just going to, I'm going to use tape to put these in place. You just want to fold it in half and set it up above. Put a piece of tape on it so it'll hold it. Next one.
Can pull that there for a second.
Okay. All right.
Give them a little better view.
It's kind of hard to see with this black.
Yeah, your elbow's blocking.
Oh,
It's okay. Nope, you're fine. I got you on the other camera. You're
okay.
good.
Okay.
Put your elbow there.
Okay. So you just
There.
tape that down and go ahead and put it back in the machine. And I'm going to go back to my black thread just in case it decides it wants to show. So I'm going to tell it who's boss. It's going to tack that down. Off. Get rid of that tape. Okay, I've already taken the two backing squares. I just did a square and I pressed them in half. So I've got a fold. I'm going to put one with the fold towards the center, take the other, set it on top with the fold towards the center. Then take some tape and you want to tape that fold down because there is a slim possibility that the presser foot could catch on the fold, and that would not make you happy. Okay, so now we're just going to stitch the backing on. Okay, so it is finished embroidering. So normally I would go to use a rotary cutter and cut this off. But first off, what you're going to do is to tear away that away. Do like to take it out of the border area. I went ahead and left it behind the design, but I did just take it out of the border just so it would be easier to turn it and have it press flatter. Okay. So, like I said, I would a lot of times use a rotary cutter, but I'm just going to go ahead and scissor cut. Just eyeballing about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Round your corners.
I'm just gonna say the missing part.
I know, I got it, I found it, I felt it. Okay, turn. Poke out the corners. Okay, and then I just like to give it a press from the back because then I don't have to worry about my glitter. And there it is. Totally done. Is this the camera we want?
No, that's good.
Okay,
Actually, you're
all
right.
right, right there. Okay, there we go. So there it is, totally done. I hope everybody learned something. Maybe not be afraid of your machine, but like I said, each section is in there, so you should be able to use it in other applications. So hope you had fun, and I don't know what I'm going to come up with next, but it'll be something. So anyway, thank you, everyone.
And this will be available on readysetsew.classes.com. That should be uploaded at some time tomorrow, and you can download her instructions as well as the JPEG she used.
We got it.
Okay,
Okay, everybody. Thank you.
bye-bye.